Jackson County Commission, February 27th, 2020 meeting to order. Roll call, Mr. Manning.
Mr. Rich.
Present.
Mr. Venable.
Present.
Ms. Gilbert.
Present.
Mr. Sis. Present. Chairman present.
We'll have our prayer by Mr. Porter and our pledge by Mr. Rich.
God our Father, we come before you blessed as we do each week. We are so blessed to be here to enjoy this wonderful country we live in right now, God. We are thankful. We are thankful for the privileges that we have. We have the privilege of self-determination, no matter what your views, no matter what your ideology, no matter what your political party. It doesn't make any difference. God, we all have the right to vote. So we're thankful for that. We're thankful for the men and women in the armed services who have protected those rights and other rights. We pray that you will be with them and guide them and be with their families as they're serving in faraway places and dangerous conditions. So God, we're just thankful for the blessings that we have in this country and in this county. We pray that you'll watch over us and guide us. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next be to approve the agenda. Before we do, I'd like to strike number 5 until next week's work session, until we can have a little bit more discussion on it.
Mr. Chairman, can we strike number 1 also? This is my first time to even see anything about this draft. I just want to make a vote, I kind of read it over. Good. A little more discussion.
All right, let me do the first one, and then we'll do a motion on the second one.
Okay.
First one, I guess we need to do a motion to strike number 5.
I'll make a motion to strike.
Has it been approved yet? Do we have to?
Well, I don't think we do them both together, can we, Mr. Moore?
Well, I mean, you can, it's a little awkward that you
Yeah.
vote on both of them. What you can do is vote to approve the agenda -5 and then come back and with Mr. Sisk's request to strike number 1 or table number 1, then you vote again on the second amendment to the.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna, got a motion to approve the agenda striking number 5.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Next, we approve the agenda with striking of number 1.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No. So it'll be left in. All right, next be board's presentations. Don't have any. Next be public comments. Mr. Morgan,
Would you like me to come to the podium or?
if you would,
Sure.
since we got one, we're gonna use it.
I hear you, as you should. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, staff, and members of the public. I always appreciate the opportunity to speak to any public body, and particularly this distinguished Jackson County Commission. I have a couple of items I wanted to discuss with you. Some of these things that, matter of fact, both these items have come before the commission before. The first item, which is the easy one, is the question about the truck, which Mr. Guffey drives, which Mr. Sisk has brought before the commission before in the after sessions. I agree with Mr. Venable on this. This is from a citizen standpoint. If there's an issue here that any of the commissioners feel, this citizen says, bring it before the commission. Let the commission vote on this. And in considering that, I know there's a policy, because it has been discussed before this distinguished body, the Jackson County Commission, that all county vehicles other than undercover vehicles or sheriff's department vehicles must have a seal on the door of those commissioners. The chair of the commissioners does not have a seal. I think that's important to designate. Of course, it has the tag, but it's also important for the people of the county to know that where their vehicles are. And if they see a vehicle out in the community, they can say, hey, that's a county vehicle. And it has been discussed before the commission that that the appropriate seal be placed on the doors of each vehicle. Now concerning, well, there should be a policy about that. Should the chair of the commission be allowed to take a vehicle of the county home for his use to drive back and forth to work, or is that going to be restricted just to official business? That's what I propose to you as a citizen of the county. I mean, I appreciate Mr. Venable's suggestion that come before the commission. I appreciate Mr. Sis bringing this up. It should come before y'all, and that's what I'm saying as a citizen. Bring it, y'all consider this. The other situation is concerning finances. Now, I noticed one item was struck from the agenda, but there is another item, Mr. Venable's letter. Hopefully that's going to the folks across the street, that's going to pertain to finances. There is no doubt Jackson County has a problem in finances, as y'all have discussed many times, and it should be obvious to the citizens of Jackson County by now, but not all of them listen to what's going on, whether it be from reading the newspapers or whether it be watching the videos, in which, by the way, it's appreciated that y'all are videoing this on live Facebook. That's greatly appreciated, because any information you can put out to the community is informing the citizens of what y'all are doing as a public body. This situation, and that is relating information concerning the budget of this commission. There's a problem, as y'all know. I'm not saying anything you don't know, but there has been mention that the commission has said previously that, we could balance this budget if we cut that $400,000 that goes to the Council of the Aging, the senior prescription program. And I'm going to tell you something. That is a problem. You cannot budget. You cannot balance the budget of this county on the backs of poor folks, on the back of folks that have a problem with filling their prescription because they don't have the money. And that's the purpose of it. And then there's the public transportation. And I've been talking to folks over there at Council on Aging. If you don't know it, there's basically 1,200 to 1,500 people that ride the transportation per month. Today, I went in there. I wanted to see the list. There was 20 this morning that was on that list. And they charge money for that. There's $5 for folks 60 and under, 60 and under, and if you're over 60, I believe it's $4. And there's a re-pickup charge of 50 cents or so. But that's important. What's important is you cannot balance the budget of this county on the backs of the poor folks of Jackson. You can't do that. If you do that, I'm going to tell you, politically speaking, that's a kiss of death. I will personally campaign against anyone, and other folks would too, I'm sure, that would balance the budget of this county on the backs of poor folks of Jackson County. That's not right. And I would ask you, in considering this, I express it strongly, because there's a lot of folks out there that depend on that transportation to get to and from. Some of them can't drive. Some of them are invalid. Some of these folks are, as it explained to me, are on kidney dialysis. And there's medical problems. So in your consideration of what you're going to do for the budget, and I agree with you. I agree with you 120% that the legislature must do something to create a venue, a way that you can raise revenue for this county. They must do it. I agree with you on that. But it can't be to trim the Council on Aging's budget and put their budget to bring yourselves under the required, as the law states, to balance the budget. In which, by the way, I've requested those documents from the State Department of Public Examiners. This county has not had a balanced budget since 2012. And y'all have commented, hell, this year's going to be a deficit as well. So we all know it's a problem. The question becomes, how are you going to communicate this to the public? The public should be standing over there saying, what the heck are y'all going to do for us? And what the heck are y'all going to do for us? It's a problem. And you know it's a problem. How to deal with it is another problem. And I appreciate Bob's, just disseminating the information. He just gave us all a document today, the members of the press. There comes a time when it's time to speak up. My concern is, hey, I'm a journalist. I'm a citizen journalist and a blogger. So I'm not just a journalist. I'm a citizen first. And I see a problem. Like I said, there's only one person been coming here longer than I have, and that's John Porter. And I appreciate John Porter. So I'm trying to stress to y'all, there's a problem here. Again, from this citizen standpoint, do something about it. It cannot rest. I mean, even after y'all are out of office, this is going to continue if it's not changed. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. If you have any questions, here I am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you.
Next, we have no old business. We'll move on to new business. Number one would be a motion to approve and sign a resolution, just the end of the delegation.
May I ask for discussion, please?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to confirm that this would be just a resolution or a proposal that we would send to the state, that it would still be up to them to decide which one, what it is, and also go before the people, correct?
Yeah, it's always up to the legislators. We have no authority.
Okay. I didn't have an opportunity to read all of it, so I was just trying to clarify that that's in there. Would you mind telling me what page it is that it states it would go before the people?
I'll have to look. I
Mr.
don't
Porter,
remember
you
what
typed it
page.
up, would you know what page it's on?
Page 5.
Page 5, thank you.
I think that, do you remember when we put this out? This was on
It was-
February 4th.
I had the framework for it.
Yeah, it was the framework, but not the
several
final.
weeks ago, And then had Mr. Porter to draft it into a bill form, I think it was last week, but it pretty much states exactly what was in the framework.
Okay, just
And
confirming.
What it is, it's requesting the delegation to put on referendum a 1 cent sales tax proposal to be voted on by the people. For the first 4 years, it'd be split 50-50 with the municipalities, be broke down per capita, just like the TVA and lieu of tax money is, excuse me. And, after the 4 years, it would be 75% to the county and 25% to the municipalities. Municipalities would be held to restrictions that only be used on roadways within their boundaries, and the counties, 75% of ours would be used on our roadways, and up to 12.5%, I think it is, I can't even remember exactly the numbers, but, we go to the council on aging. But
The senior RX
it's
is
the
good.
same thing we talked about with the delegation when you, I, and Mr. Sis met with them.
I was just making sure of the final draft form. I didn't have an opportunity to read it. One other question is, this would be along in consideration with the other 3 or 4 items that were on the table that night also, right?
Well,
It's up to.
I have not seen anything else.
With the ones we sent several months ago.
The last contact I had with any of the delegation was on the 11th of this month. I was told the end of this week, get with the other 2 and get back with them at the end of this week. And that was 16 days ago, and I've not heard anything. There's about 10 weeks of session left. Any bill would have to advertise for 4 weeks before it could hit the floor down there. So we're running out of time to get anything done this session to be on the 2020 November general election ballot. So if there's something else out there, I'd be glad to look at it, but I've not seen anything else.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
And I was not in that meeting with you guys, so I don't really know what was discussed. So this is only the draft I've seen, is one of Mr. Denver done. I wasn't in that meeting. All right.
I'll
need
make a motion to approve it.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I abstain. I'm not questioning anything, Mr. Lord, Venable stating, because I was in the meeting, but I just wanted to look over it more. I had a death in the family when it was presented here, and, I abstained.
Motion carries. Number 2 will be a motion to accept hiring committee's recommendation for vacant temporary labor positions 2 for the Public Works Department.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Number 3 will be a motion to accept hiring committee's recommendation for the vacant HMT 1, position 3 for Public Works Department.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Number 4 will be a motion to accept the hiring committee's recommendation for vacant EA 1 position for the Public Works Department.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. And last on our new business, be a motion to approve Honorable Venable's letter to send to the legislative delegation.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Could I read the letter?
Yeah.
Yes,
I'd
please.
like to read it out loud. There's no question. The Jackson County Commission makes this plea to you from some sort of release for the financial hardship it has been in for the last few years. There has been much talk and many ideas between the delegation and the commission over the last several years. But the fact still remains the county has a revenue shortfall that keeps us from being able to perform our duties and responsibilities to our citizens. We, as a commission, have been able to find a way year in and year out to balance our budget, but that has often and almost always at some expense to the public or to our employees. Whether it be roadway safety due to the regressive condition of our roadways causing damage and potential unsafe traveling conditions, the understaffing of our sheriff's department, where on some occasions we have as few as 2 deputies covering this large county, the county jail, where it's becoming increasingly difficult for us to retain a full staff due to our low rate of pay. The staffing issue isn't limited to the jail. We have only been able to give one small cost of living increase in the last 7 years, while entities all around us have had annual increases. This has not only led us to more than 20% turnover rate, but has made it difficult to attract good candidates for open positions. Last but not least, we have a vast number of elderly and less fortunate individuals who depend on our senior services and rural transportation programs. These are very important, needed programs, could very soon find themselves in financial jeopardy if we cannot continue to support them through our general fund. The commission has asked by numerous resolutions for several different referendums to be placed on the ballot for the people of Jackson County to determine the course in which they want this county to be on. We strongly and unanimously believe that whatever action is taken should be approved by the favorable vote of the citizens of our great county. We in no way approve or would we support imposing of any tax in Jackson County. We appreciate all past help and cooperation. We know that you all deeply care for this community we all call home. This is why we sincerely ask again to please place on the 2020 general election ballot a permanent solution to this growing problem.
Thank you. Mr. Reese, did you make the motion?
I made a motion.
And I second it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Next be a reports from staff. Mr. Manning, I know you got some stuff you want to talk about.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to briefly touch on another thing that we've been dealing with for years, and that's the shortage of our gas tax money to properly work on our highways, roads, bridges. And I continually hear how we've got plenty of money and there's plenty of money coming in. I'm going to share some numbers with you, and I handed the handouts to the people in the press here, but I looked at 6 years ago, 2013, and I've itemized our gas taxes then, and I looked at them again at the year that just closed, 2019, 6 years later. We have increased in all of our gas taxes a grand total of $348,601. Now, of that increase, one of the funds is restricted only for materials and equipment, and that one has increased to $118,000. The other funds that are relegated to our work on our roads and bridges has increased a meager $230,601 in 6 years. Now, our operating cost has dwarfed that number. I think everyone here agrees just operating anything now compared to 2013 has gone up drastically. So, all of the county's operating costs relating to public works, maintenance, bridges, ditches, repairs, patching, anything you want to call, that has increased tremendously. And so then we have the Rebuild Alabama tax. The amount coming in for this current year was a projected number, and it looks to be holding pretty close to that number, about $593,000. Back in August, excuse me, back in August, we had to approve the projects for that money. $593,000 is going to do 6.7 miles this upcoming year of our 1,100 and something miles of roads. So I want everyone to understand that there's not a tremendous amount of money sitting out there for us to put toward roads and bridges. And I also want everybody to understand that the Rebuild Alabama, which is 6 cents per gallon for this year, is going to do 6.75 miles. Now, those are the facts. Those are the projects that were approved back in August that goes along with this bill. And I think, in speaking with our engineer, I want to ask see if he has anything to add to that, but I think he does want to mention that nearly all of this is for maintenance. Mr. Campbell?
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Thank you, Chairman.
Come up to the back if you don't mind.
Screen, Mike. It's off, John.
Thank you for those comments, Mr. Manning. Thank you for the chance to speak, Mr. Chairman. I'll just add a little bit to what Mr. Manning has said. The gas tax revenue that he's compared over the last 6 years, that basically takes care of regular routine business. So in past years and what we'll look for in the future, the project money will now have to come from Rebuild Alabama. So we were able to do some local road paving, some bridge rehab, and some projects from cash balance. So obviously that model can't continue eating into cash balance and what little reserves that are there without replacement revenue. So 6 to 7 to even 10 miles when Rebuild Alabama is at its max will be at basically a tenth of what we would do to stay on a 15, even a optimistic 15-year rotation in pavement replacement. So I do appreciate the comments and I appreciate the comparisons. In the past, just to give you a little insight on where this project money came from and how we made it in the past, the 112 and 116 fund that is now being solely obligated to the general fund, that was where project dollars came from. So our federal aid match funds would come from that. Local road resurfacing or chip seal, tar and gravel roadways, oftentimes that came from that, as well as any other projects that cropped up that were major rehabs. And I'll just add too, that we weren't in the life cycle of that infrastructure as we are now. So thank you for all the work you've done on that, and thank you for bringing some of that to life.
And that's all I've got on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Ford?
All right, thank you.
Mr. Nash, you got anything to do?
I do have one thing. I think you've been made aware through an email. We have a resignation that's effective 3/12 at the jail with the corrections deputy. We'll be advertising for that position, trying to find a qualified candidate. I hate to football, they'd be throwing the flag for piling on, but I'm going to pile on.
Yeah.
It's hard to track folks with what we're able to pay. The county's very fortunate to have a dedicated crew they have over there at the jail. I got a call from someone last night at 6:40 that's not going to get paid overtime that was still there and didn't go home at 6 o'clock still doing the job because they were shorthanded and booking the folks they have. So you're fortunate, and I am, to have the folks that we have that are dedicated over there, but it's hard to attract folks at what this pays. But we'll have a vacancy coming up and hopefully a hire soon thereafter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Nash. Anybody else?